Good morning. So great to see so many of you here this morning. It's always a pleasure to be at these events. It's another remarkable day for Mizzou, and it's so great to see so many of you here to share this with us. These events are always a lot of fun, not just because we might be announcing some money, but because we actually have an opportunity to talk about the people and to talk about what they've done for us and why we're so proud that they're part of that Mizzou family. And it's a privilege to be able to do that, to talk about people who've come here and gone on and done great things. And today is one example of that, another inspirational story about someone who attended Mizzou. And in fact, this one has more history than most, in that Jim Pace is a descendant of one of Mizzou's founding families. His forefathers invested in this institution because they had a big idea worth exploring. And when Jim came here as a student to study business, but also to play baseball, he became the direct beneficiary of that big idea. His business education helped launch his career in ROM Corporation, where he became the CEO. And during his time at ROM Corp, Jim learned a lot about how to run a business, how to run a successful business. So when he came to us with his hopes to pass on that knowledge to us and to enhance his legacy of giving, he really had two things in mind. First and foremost, of course, he wanted to support Mizzou and give back to this institution that so many have benefited from being a part of. And second, he wanted to help us to identify ways to improve our business operations. You see, Jim understands that it takes investment to actually move an institution forward. He understands that during times when you may not have a lot of additional investment coming in, one way to get that investment is to think about how you make yourself more efficient, how you find opportunity for investment from existing resources by thinking of how to change practices. And today, I am so honored to announce that that concept has led Jim and inspired him to where he is giving an incredible gift of $1.5 million to Mizzou. In partnership with MU's Chief Financial Officer, Rhonda Gibler, Jim is helping us to actually make sure that we live up to what it means to be the university for Missouri. He's been an incredible advisor as we've developed a training series that standardizes how financial work is done across the institution. And it's my understanding that 4,500 participants have already benefited from this. Good. You just shake your head. It's okay. You don't have to answer fully. And this actually helps us to operate much more efficiently. She wasn't expecting that question, so maybe I caught her a little off guard. She's in thought about what she's going to say. And it also helped us to launch a secure and user-friendly websites for the division of finance and cashiers. And we've, along the way, implemented improved contract portal to ensure we're getting the best rates for services and products. But it's Jim's expertise that makes him our best advocate. He has supported the work of our Resource Allocation Model Committee to ensure we are making the best use of campus resources. And he's helping us focus our dollars where they can have the greatest impact. All of these allow us to focus on what is important to the future of Missouri's flagship land-grant institution. Through his gift, Jim has ensured that his family, which has a very long legacy at this institution, will continue to live on for generations to come. Thank you, Jim, for your commitment to Mizzou and our mission. We couldn't be prouder to have you as part of our Mizzou family. And now it is my honor, my pleasure, to invite Jim up here to share what Mizzou means to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex and Tom, and the administration here at the university for inviting me here today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge some special folks that are here today. My lovely wife, Barbara, is on the front row. Next to her is my sister, Deanna Jacobs, who's a University of Missouri graduate and a 34-year veteran of the Columbia, Missouri educational system. And my nephew, her son, Travis Jacobs, who's a two-time grad of the University of Missouri. And he has a law degree and is a practicing attorney here in Columbia. And I have a dear special friend, George Hewlett, an old dear friend of mine from Columbia. George is probably the closest friend I've had. And he, longtime Missouri, well, he's a Missouri grad and longtime Missouri supporter, and is the owner of Hewlett Heating, a large mechanical contracting firm here in central Missouri. I'm not a great extemporaneous speaker, so I've taken the liberty to write out a few of my comments about what the university means to me and why I gave the gift. I think it's important to give you a bit of a background on my association with the university. While the PACE name may not be one of the most recognized benefactors, the university has a long connection. As Alex mentioned, in 1839, my great-great-grandfather, John Pace, received a visitor at his small farm in Boone County who was calling on local residents with the hope of raising money so that the governor would choose Columbia as the site of the first land-grant institution, the University of Missouri, west of the Mississippi. That visit convinced my great-great-grandfather to give $100 to the university, and also resulted in his brothers, Richard and Samuel, giving $50 and $10 respectively. The Pace family thus became one of the 100 founding families of this great institution, as Alex mentioned, an association that I and my family are extremely proud of. My personal association began with the university when I graduated from Hickman High School here in Columbia. I was not an exceptional student. In fact, did not really know if I was going to go to college, or if I did, how I could afford it. Then I was offered a partial athletic scholarship during the spring of my senior year, and my path then became clear. The education I received at the university, along with the traveling opportunities I was afforded through my involvement in athletics, gave me the exposure to a world and life outside of central Missouri. It allowed me to see how the world works, what success looks like, and most importantly, the opportunities available to those who are willing to work hard. The foundation that I received from the university gave me the courage and the skills to follow my dream of owning my own business. That dream came true in 1973 when I had the opportunity to purchase a small manufacturing company in Kansas City. After many years of hard work and with the guidance and support of many advisors and associates, I was able to build a highly successful manufacturing and sales company, which I sold in 2004. That business and the eventual sale has provided me with the resources which enabled me to give back to this institution that believed in me and allowed me to follow and achieve my dreams. My business degree from Missouri, along with excellent training I received from my first job with IBM, plus my 30 years of owning and managing my own business, gave me the knowledge and the skills to understand the elements needed to build a successful enterprise. As you all know, commercial enterprises exist primarily to provide a product or service to those who are willing to pay for it. For a person to be willing to buy a product or service, that product or service must add benefit and value in an appropriate and affordable price. In my opinion, an educational institution is no different than a commercial enterprise. However, in today's world, the education business model is fragile and unstable. The university relies primarily on funding from the state. Because the state is facing increasing fiscal pressures, funding from the state is often uncertain and in many years declining. To bridge the budget deficits, the university is forced to raise tuition. But in my tuition, there is a point at which the consumer will no longer be willing to pay for the education because of the cost. Further, the state can and does at times set limits on how much the university can increase tuition. Therefore, in order to maintain an economically viable educational institution, we must look at the expense side of the ledger. In my opinion, educational institutions have been slow and in some cases incapable of critically examining their operations and vigorously seeking ways to cut expenses. When I began talking to the development office about making a gift to the university, I wanted to do something that would help the institution succeed into the future. So I began looking for ways I could find an initiative that would help stabilize this business model. As I investigated my options, it appeared to me that Missouri was a decentralized organization using shared services with other departments only on an infrequent basis. Each department was basically its own operating entity. I tested my observations and met with many department heads, deans, and professors expressing my concerns and my vision about the sustainability of the current business model. Most, if not all, agreed with me in my assessment and my discussion points. However, However, while there was an awareness of the issue, there was little enthusiasm or momentum for creating real change. I became concerned about whether I could really help affect real lasting change, the type of change that would get academics and administrators to alter the paradigm and help ensure the viability of the university for future generations. When I was introduced to Dr. Rhonda Gibler, on my left, most of you know her, Chancellor of Finance, Dr. Gibler is an intelligent, thoughtful, and committed visionary who has a passion for this wonderful institution and a clear understanding of my concerns. Dr. Gibler was committed to my vision of reining in costs and was willing to undertake and manage this project in addition to her other important responsibilities. I am proud to report that my family's gift to the university has resulted in real cost savings and has helped usher in a new way of thinking that I hope and trust will allow the university to be here to educate my great-great-grandchildren. I'd like to turn it over to Rhonda, who will share with you more details about the success associated with this initiative. Thank you very much.
I'm a little shorter. What an opportunity. There's a statement I use often, and some of my colleagues and staff in the room have heard me say it many times. It is an incredible privilege to get to stand on the shoulders of the many, many other folks who have been at the university before me, and many, many that will follow me. And to have an opportunity to do your part as you spend your time with the university is just humbling to me that I get that opportunity, and working with Jim just heightens that understanding of what a privilege it is. So I put some remarks down. Those who know me well know that I talk from the top of my head often, but this is so desperately important to me that I convey to you the importance of this work and what Jim and his family's contributions have meant. I'm going to be a little off my usual game, and I'm going to look down and make sure I stay on somewhat of a script. It strikes me as incredibly poignant that a descendant of one of the families that helped establish this great university in Columbia 180 years ago is supporting projects that assist us with continuous improvement. Many organizations falter well before they reach 180 years of service. Some of that is related to failure to evolve their processes, evolve their thinking, and get disconnected from the people that make things happen. When the Chancellor mentioned people, that is how things get done. The people that come here to study, the people that make the work happen every day. You have to understand what it is that drives people to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. The incredible insight that Jim has shown with his support is that there's significant impact on the mission if we don't continue to assess and evolve our administrative and business practices. So I'm just going to outline a few of what I see as Jim's contributions. The first contribution Jim made to our efforts to continually improve was he provided inspiration and energy. In our first meeting, when the questions and ideas he shared with me resonated so well with the work that my team and many others at the university had been interested in doing, and as Jim indicated, there was a lot of awareness that there's opportunity, but change is really hard, and how do you get off the dime and start moving things in a really productive direction? It really struck me that there are supporters of this university who really get that what we do is complex and it requires curating very carefully so that we can do things as effectively as possible. This galvanized for me the importance of this work and created an additional sense of urgency. So most days there's too much to do and you really have to prioritize. It's a constant process, I think, for all of us in our lives. So every day I come into work with what I think I'm going to do, and then you have to continually keep saying, okay, is that the most important thing I can do to make a difference today? And so having that inspiration and energy was something that allowed me to take what I already knew from working with a lot of folks at the university and try to find ways that this incredible supporter could help us make a difference. The second contribution, which in my role as Vice Chancellor for Finance, won't sound too surprising, was financial resources. That allowed us to jumpstart and escalate the timelines of numerous projects that we were very interested in doing. To date, the work related to the areas that Jim and I discussed on day one has resulted in more than $3 million of impact. That's an incredible testament to, one, the inspiration and that giving us that little extra something to innovate, and then the people it takes to make something like that happen. So you don't have an impact like that without working carefully with folks to find new solutions. Then finally, the contribution that I would like to speak about is belief and support. So I think one of the things that helps us all be successful in what we endeavor to do is really feeling that someone believes in what you're doing and supports what you're doing. Through what Jim and his family have expressed interest in, and they're asking me for reports and wanting to know what the progress was. And so, we'd be touching base quarterly, and it gives you that additional, one, urgency to keep things moving, but also this constant support that what you're doing is worth doing and that someone believes you can get it done. So the partnership that I felt over the last number of years has been extraordinarily important. And what I've tried is to, in each of the projects we take on, to do some of what I felt in working with Jim, and that was show people that we believe they can do it and provide them some support and understand where they're coming from so that we can then help them find those good answers. So it seems like such a small thing to say, given how I feel about everything that Jim and his family has meant to me and what I think we're going to be positioned to continue far into the future to help Mizzou examine ourselves, to say thank you. That seems like such a small thing to say, to represent the gratitude that I feel, but hopefully it's clear that it's heartfelt. So thank you, Jim.
So I'm the wrap-up. I'm Tom Hiles, Vice Chancellor for Advancement. And, I always say everybody's for more money. But I can say this, that in my 34-year career of doing advancement work, I've never had a gift quite like this. I've had other donors who paid for marketing supplies or other kinds of things, but an infrastructure gift like this to encourage productivity and efficiency is really exciting. And it's out of the box. And it's something Jim and I had conversations going back a couple years. Jim has given to a lot of different programs over the years at Mizzou, but this is something that we wanted to really capture that equated his passions with something that could have an impact at Mizzou. So it wasn't done quickly, but we got to where we are. And like all big gifts, they come with big ideas. And so this is Rhonda gave you a subset of the things we're going to be working on over the years, and this gift will come over time. So Jim, it's amazing. And I want to, I'm so glad your family could join us here today. I have the honor and privilege of working with so many of our donors, and Jim has been a mentor to me as well. Jim helped me think through a lot of issues from a leadership standpoint. He and I know Starbucks in the plaza, which is every time I go to Kansas City, I find 15 minutes to an hour and a half with Jim just because he helps me think through a lot of issues. So while we talked about this gift, we also talked about life, certainly talked about the Royals and a few other things. I got to know a little bit about we didn't even talk about his amazing baseball career, but he's very modest. His team, where he was the starting catcher, went to the College World Series and was runner-up national champion. Pretty amazing experience. So I've sincerely enjoyed working with Jim and appreciate the advisor he's been to all of us. Your gift of $1.5 million is an important story of this campaign, Our Time to Lead. It really set out to be the campaign of a transformational impact. And as we near the $1.3 billion goal, we're proud to share in many of the successes we've had along the way. So Jim, you're a true son and an incredible friend to me and to this institution. We thank you for your generosity. So please join me one more time in thanking Jim and his family.
I just want to correct one thing that Tom said. You know, if you're an old athlete, you always were better than you really were. And on the 64 team that he's talking about, I was not the starting catcher, I was the backup catcher, but I was on the
I will always see you as the starting catcher. Anyway, again, appreciate the campaign cabinet being here, and thank you all for your support. And we will have time for questions from the media afterwards, so thank you all very much.